put your July blockout dates in. That'd be awesome. Please don't leave me by myself for July 4th weekend. Okay, good. Okay, so are you guys excited about this skill builder? I wanted to talk about, we are recording it because I think it's a really important topic for all of our teams. But I want to talk about how we prepare for the specific position that we're sitting in. And so each of us represent some different seats. And I picked these people not because they're the only people who prepare, but because they prepare very intentionally and specifically for different things. So I know like Kiara plays a billion instruments, right? Marissa sits in more seats than just one. Jord from tech, Tiffany, same deal. So just there's some diversity up here. I wanted to represent each and every seat. So anyway, I have a couple questions to get us started. And then hopefully, because usually when we start panels like this, I'll say, anybody have any questions? And it's like crickets. But so I have a couple to get us going. And then if we have organic questions that come, we can do that. So you guys ready? Okay. So question number 1 is, what is the first thing you do when you get a song list? Nico. Go ahead, Dale.
6. I was going to say I celebrate because now they're like 2-3 weeks in ahead.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
I can answer that.
Go ahead, answer better.
First thing I do, so on electric, sometimes there's riffs or solos or different arrangements that are more technical that push my limits of what I can play. So first thing I do is I go through them, scan them, and see if there's anything like really spicy that I've got to take extra time on. So if there is, right away I figure out what it is, and then I just replay it.
I look for all the things that are cheesy. No, I'm kidding, sorry. What about you, Tiffany? What do you do when you get a song list?
Your mic is off, I apologize.
I had one job.
I don't know how to.
There you go.
The first thing I do is I check the set list. I'm looking for what songs we're doing, but not only what songs we're doing, I'm looking for who is singing them, and then I create a YouTube play. I actually have a YouTube playlist labeled rehearsal, so I remove last week's songs and put this week's songs in it.
That's genius. We also have a Spotify playlist. Every single week we update it if you need that. So, but I love it.
I second that. I do the same thing on Spotify.
Does anybody do anything different when they get the list? Aaron, what do you do?
Similar. There we are. Similar but different. So I've got feedback right.
It's like delayed, so
Yeah,
it feels
it's
weird.
weird.
I know.
So I immediately listen to the songs in order that they're occurring in the set list in the original key that the artist did them in.
Why the original key?
Because it's basically home base in my head. That's what it is. It's home base. It's how it was meant, how it was written. And then after I listen to the entire set list, I'll go through in the key that we're doing it. And then from there, it's practice it in the key and get it down until I have it. So, yeah.
Can you talk to a little bit about why you might listen to it in the original key and then play it in another key? Because it changes. I think about that with, there was a song we recently did, maybe it was On the Way, or who else, but like the riff where you were playing it according to the transposed version changed.
So, Jordan, okay, yeah, I think that specifically applies a lot to riffs for like electric and keys players. You got to figure out, especially because oftentimes we switch like male songs to female keys. In the riff, you either need to go up an octave or down an octave. And so listening to it in the original key gives you a better idea of what the goal sound is, so that when you have to transpose a riff 6 keys up or 6 keys down, should I go down the octave or up the octave? It's like a whole dilemma.
Okay. What does your practice routine look like each week?
I don't know. Which one am I there? My practice routine is listening to 7 guitar tracks per song and figuring out which one I need to implement. No, my practice routine starts with, like everybody said, starts Spotify set list, listen to the song, active listening. If you wait till Wednesday to do active listening, you've wasted 2 days
Say
of
it louder.
understanding why you're listening to the song, right? It just ends up being a hum. You want to active listen from the beginning, like first listen, I active listen, and then from there, I pick up on all the cues, right? And all my cues are listed. So I start with that. And then when I'm actually on my instrument, I'm looking, I love the fact that we talked about original key. I think that is so important for some of the, maybe not drums, but some of the instruments, because you're getting the heart, somebody said the heart of what they were trying to compose, right? There's art in what we do, and there's a reason that it was composed a certain way. And I can try to fudge a few things because of the tonality. It's like, oh, it's kind of high, but if you understand why they played it in open string electric guitars and things like that, even acoustic guitars, you know, where's your capo? Oh, well, we're playing in G, let's put a capo. Well, let's listen to the original. How did he, you know, voice it? And voicings are really important. So third step, I'm on my guitar, I'm listening to voicings. And we don't have time to go into voicings for an hour, but voicings are so important to the heart of the song, why you're doing that. A G chord's not just a G chord. How are you hitting that? So that's, I'll stop there, but that's half of my practice.
Who else? Go ahead, Marissa.
Hello. Oh, that sounds so weird. Okay. Mine is kind of like Dale's as well, and just actively listening through everything. And of course, it changes based on your role on the team. So like, especially when I'm MDing, that was like the week that we marked the chart, that's my active listening. That's like what I'll sit down and do and actually go through. Because it's kind of, as an MD, your responsibility to know what everybody's supposed to be doing to correct if you need to, and just kind of like from there change the arrangement. But the other thing is your role on the team. Like, I'm thinking like an orchestral score, like what part do you play there? Like, do you have the melody? Do you have a riff you have to learn? Do you need to like play different kinds of things? Like sometimes I will play the part of the song, and then sometimes I'll go through and just play it completely differently in the event that we like change the feel for like ministry time or something like that. So you kind of want to like play, like get comfortable playing in the key and stuff like that. That's kind of what I do once I feel like I've got like the part down, if that makes sense.
I'm just going to add that I very rarely practice through a whole song in its entirety all the way through from top to bottom. And I think that people mistake that often. They think that, oh, I'll run this song again. And you can run a song 100 times all the way through and not make any progress on it, because it's kind of that mundane, it just becomes like the hum in the back of your head, and you're like, yeah, I know of the song. Instead, because we don't all have an unlimited amount of time, often even though I work here, I still have like a designated like outside of work practice time to like present to the Lord as like an offering. And so part of that looks like working through the things that need worked on more than just the full layout of a song. If I'm not leading a song, maybe as the worship leader, do I need to listen to how all of those things go? Because I got to be able to step in if necessary. But if Marissa's leading a song, I don't need to sing verse 1. I don't need to practice how I'm going to change my registers through that or whatever, because she's going to take care of that. I need to make sure I can jump around in the other sections of the song on my harmony part. I need to make sure I know the words there. I need to know, you brought up about if we change something for ministry time. This is something for us. Even if we take a song all the way through, in live worship, often we will change the dynamic of how we do something. And if I only know how to belt that portion of the song, or I only know how to sing it in my head voice, I am up a creek when we change the feel. And so it's really important that I go through each section and go, how would I do this if I had to be the only person with an acoustic guitarist at the close of a service really intimately and make sure this works? And then if I have a full band and we are all out and everybody's screaming and it's an anthem, how am I going to carry it now? And so thinking through that like dynamic, and how am I going to go from one to the next? Where is the pivot point? Because often in a song, there's a moment where this works to build, And sometimes it doesn't. If you're singing a song like None But Jesus, and I say like, in the quiet, in the stillness, I know, that doesn't work for a build. So you got to be intentional about where those things are going to happen and be able to communicate that with your teammates to know where you're going to make those changes. Anybody else? Tiffany, you got thoughts? Aaron, you got thoughts? I can see it. Go ahead.
I think one of the awesome things about being able to do music is that it allows you to be creative. So you don't have to just follow, like, kind of tailing off what you were just saying there. You don't have to just follow what the band who originally did the song, how they performed it. I like to practice the song that way so that I got the basic root of it down. But going off of that, I also come up with alternative ways of playing it so that it's not just like just as the recording is. Play it in other ways, play it, in different styles and different formats, and see if maybe you can incorporate something like that into the way that CLF worship does.
And that's worship leadership from your instrument.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's important, is not just learning it, just the root, but like knowing the song to a point where you can come up here, worship, not have to think about it necessarily, but be more attentive towards the actual worship portion of your time on, while you're doing it. I think that kind of gets to the heart of it. Otherwise, we're just playing songs.
Come on.
So.
Tiffany, go ahead. What about you?
Hear me?
It's Jordan. It's not you.
From a tech perspective, a lot of that doesn't make sense, but I know this sounds weird, but there was a time in tech where we didn't have comms. So I am very intentional about practicing like we don't. Specifically because we didn't have them for years, then we had them for a little bit, and then we didn't have them again, and I felt debilitated. So I'm very intentional about knowing for if some reason I cannot hear Kiara or the MD, whoever it is, I know where the verse of the song is, I know what the bridge is, I know if there's a build coming so that I can hit that light cue. So it sounds weird because a lot of you have probably not had comms, but it's not a great feeling when you don't have them, so I try to be prepared for if that does happen.
Comms are their equivalent of the MD.
I was just going to jump in on both their points. If you can barely pull off the song, then you're not ready for what Bree's going to throw at you, what the Holy Spirit's going to throw at you, what technical issues are going to throw at you, right?
Nobody's safe.
No, but it's true. If you can barely pull off the song, the original song, then you're in a lot of trouble. You've got to know it so well inside out that then whatever happens, you're ready and you can be creative. You can have fun with it. He's going there, so I know what's happening, things like that. A misconception is, I'm just going to play it my way. Well, you're playing it your way because you don't know the original, but that's actually that's not being prepared. So know the original, know it so well that you're prepared to jump anywhere. And last point on that, know everybody else's part. And I know everybody's part every practice, because my responsibility in every musician, every back vocal, everybody. Yeah, I think what's that?
Everybody.
Everybody. If you don't know the other person's part, how are you gelling with them? We've got in-ears. The down part or the sad part of in-ears is you don't have that band feel. You don't have the amps. You don't have the acoustic drums hitting you. You don't have the feel of the bass from an amp hitting you in the legs. So you don't have the feel. How are you going to know where he is if you don't know what he's supposed to be playing and then what you're supposed to be playing, right? So if I'm playing eighth notes and he's playing eighth notes and Mike's playing eighth notes and Brian's playing eighth notes, that's a lot of eighth notes, right? So where am I supposed to be in my creative process? Well, it depends. What's Mike playing right there, right? If I know his part and I hear something, Kiara played something, I think like last week or 2 weeks ago, and she played something. I'm like, I know where she is. I know what dynamic she's playing because of what she was playing. So then I can fit in that lane, right? Because we're trying to go together. So know everybody's parts. That, to me, is probably the best thing that you could do.
I think vocalists are guilty of this too, because we think that if I know the lyrics, then I know what I'm doing, or if I know my harmony part. But there's a lot of BGVs who can't sing the melody or can't sing the other part, and there's no like condemnation in that, but harmonies became unlocked for me when I learned all three parts, because I know how they fit in context with one another. So if one is changing, I know that the other one needs to change, or how it is dissonant or how it is not. I know when, wow, those two notes are really close and they're gonna rub together, so I'm gonna have to be really mindful that my pitch is really accurate, or else this isn't gonna work. And I think that that context relationship is really, it sets apart good bands who just play from people who, why do I play and what am I intentionally playing? And that's kind of even what Yuka was describing to all of us at the workshop, so. Okay. How do you rehearse in a week when it's a crazy week and you just do not have as much time as you normally would like to devote to something?
I'll go. I was just going to say, I always check the set list to see what songs we're playing, but if I know it's going to be a chaotic week, I would probably focus more, and this may not be good for people that sing and play instruments, but I specifically would focus more on a song that maybe was newer or we hadn't played in a very long time. So that's probably where the majority of my time would go.
Check. Okay. This is where your preparation in past weeks is going to help carry you in future weeks, because especially for me, we have a really big song library, but if you serve consistently, there's a lot of songs you've probably played multiple times. And for me too, because I jump around on instruments, a lot of the times I'm able to pick out the parts of a song, you know, no matter which one I'm on, because I've dissected that piece of music so many times. So like, for example, this week I'm on drums, and there was only one day this week that I was able to make it and come play on the kit. But we had this set list 3 weeks ago. So 3 weeks ago, I started listening to the song list. I started figuring out where's the kick fall, where's the snare fall. I'm listening to the songs on repeat so that come this week, even though I knew I only had one day to sit down and play on the kit, I could sit down and play on the kit, and I already knew the music. I just had to execute it. Does that make sense? And that can work for anything, for tech, for any instrument, a vocalist.
I would second the, even if you don't get the set list weeks ahead, which we are doing more of now, which is awesome, but I think about it like a bank account. When you make deposits into that account, like the more money that's in that account, the higher the investment return, and the more you have to withdraw from it, the more frequently you draw from it without depositing into it, you run the risk of like overdrafting. And the same is true of your skill and like the library and what we do here. And there's a lot of people who, whether it's because of the way the rotation works or because of their availability, they only want to serve once a month or only can get scheduled to serve once a month. That's okay. But in your off weeks, you're still not off as a worshiper. And so you've got the opportunity to still sharpen that skill as an individual, not because of the team, but because the Lord gave me a gift and I still want to steward it well. And I think a lot of times people will, I'm not going to sing any harmonies till the last week in July because I'm not on this week. That's cool, but then you're like leaving that skill on the shelf to get dusty for 5 weeks till the next time you play. And the more that the library is accessible to all of us at any time. If there's a song that like the last time we did it like you got stuck on it or it was tricky, lean into where it's tricky and go, you know what? In the 3 weeks I have off, even if we're not doing this song again the next time I play, we'll do it again. Like I think about Faithfulness. We just introed that song like in March. And there are still some people on our team, the last time we played it, I listened back and I was like, they still don't know this song. There's a counting resource. We've played it so many times. If that's you, go home this week, even if you're not scheduled, and just learn Faithfulness, because we're going to do it again. Like, I've already suggested it for a list in July. It's coming, and it will haunt you. So, like, make the deposit. Like, just do it, because then, like, you know how freeing it is when you go to the store and you're like, yeah, I've deposited money and I've been saving, so, like, I can buy that shirt, no problem. I can go out to eat when they want. on demand, you've got the resource, right? It's the same exact thing with your skill. Sorry, I could go on and on about this all day. Sorry. Somebody else talk.
Hello. I was gonna say the same thing that Kiara and Bree said, was just that, like, for example, faithfulness as I think I might have been the first one to MD that. And since then, I've MD'd it like twice, like 2 other times, but there have been other songs in the set list, and there have been like crazy weeks. So where it's like, this might be one that I just like am running through and not spending as much time on. But that being said, there is like, that song is very specific with parts and like rhythmic nuances. So if you know it, you know it, and there's really not too much else that we normally change about it, because it is one of those songs we just like run through. So as they were saying, just like depositing into that, like, oh, I'm gonna play through this song because just to keep my chops up, because I know the song, and then if I know I don't have like a lot of time to spend, then I can spend more time on another song and just know that I've run through and I've made sure, like, oh, I just did this one, I did this one 3 weeks ago or whatever, and I know that one already. So it's not to say like don't work on it, it's just like if there's songs that you know, you'll start to recognize, like, oh, I've played that and I've played it on this instrument, I've MD'd it, or I've sang that, I've been on alto or whatever, like I'll just run through that one and make sure I'm practicing that. But then if I know I have less time, to spend time on other things. So
Just to add to that, if you are, this is for anybody on our team, but also for those of you in Infuse or Worship Academy, when you first start on any team, you can ask everybody in this room. The library is overwhelming because every week for a month, you're like, all 3 of these are new every week. You don't know what we're doing. You're like, what the heck? Infuse is intense because you're like, this is all new material. I didn't know any of it. I haven't played any of these before. But if you put the work in, it will pay off, because eventually one of those songs is going to repeat and you're going to be like, I know that one. I just need to brush it up. It's no problem. But in it, Brian's like, it's me. Yeah. So if there is we've talked about that before, but part of it is my personality, and the other piece is Pastor Comer's personality. He was a worship leader at one point. So we kind of like, sky's the limit from like the last 50 years of like worship music. But I do try, now that we're getting set lists earlier, it was really nice in the month of May to pick a night of worship music that had to do with the whole month. So I don't know if anybody else noticed that. I did. But like when we got to night of worship, usually I'm having to rehearse like 8 full songs. And I was like, we did half of these the last 3 weeks. So if you were on, you know them already. Like it was nice, right? All these guys who were there were like, yeah. Yeah. But it wasn't, because faithfulness was one of them. We had to run that one time. We've already done the legwork on it. But as you grow in your skill, does not mean that you put less effort into what you're doing. And I think that people think that once Infuse is over and they've made the team, I've arrived, and I know no one in here has said that, but they think, I know these songs, I've been playing with you for a while, I don't have to be as prepared. And I would challenge you and say, actually, now that you don't have to work on your skill as much, I don't have to run the alto part for every song every week. I just know it. I recorded them. But now I have additional time to pray for my bandmates and to seek the Lord about the set list in a way that when I was brand new, I didn't have the opportunity to do, because I had to learn the material. That was the most anointed thing I could do. And I think sometimes we miss that because people think, oh, I'm a vet on this team. And I'm like, no, we're all newbies to what the Lord wants to do this week, even if we've played that song 1,000 times.
Yeah, to more answer your question, Brian, everybody, if you're on this team, has access to all 500 songs on Planning Center, but you can filter it to say what we've done in the last year or what we've done. There's like a filter option. So if you need help finding it, I can help you. But then you'll know like what we've done more recently. Not that we don't pull old stuff, because there are some weeks she gives me a song. and I'm
Also
like,
Spotify too, like because of those playlists, you can go back and find like 3 and add them to a list.
And what if you don't have Spotify?
Then you need to get a subscription.
What if you're an Apple Music?
Then you need to find somebody and get on their family plan. You're out.
Look, okay, so everything that I heard was very practical, very good. But I would say because we said if it's a crazy week and you haven't had a chance to practice, now that we get the set list, you really don't have
Come on.
an excuse.
That's exactly what it is.
Unless you just have a crazy month. But
Then you should be saying your best
But-
yes somewhere.
But sometimes I feel that way. But in the past, this is a little confession. So in the past, the trick that, and this really only works if you know your instrument.
Aaron's
You
not
know
going to
what you're-
be
what
scheduled
you're
for a
gonna do.
long minute, guys.
We're just gonna.
A trick.
They don't know that he asked for a couple weeks off too, so
Yeah.
not really because of the panel. Sorry.
A trick, believe it or not, I've used it in the past, is air guitar. No joke. Because I can listen to the song, I can pull up the chord sheet, and because I know my instrument so well, I know where everything is on the instrument. I can like visualize where everything is and play it as I'm listening to it. So it's a cheat sheet, it's a quick way to learn the song. That's a very don't use that as your mainstay by any means, but but
Dale's out. He's
but,
offended.
but seriously, I've used it in the past. If you're in a pinch, and I'm not saying that's a mainstay, but I'm just saying. And honestly, now that we have weeks ahead, a time frame.
Aaron
really
has
is
also.
that.
How long have you been playing? 20 years.
20,
How old are you, Aaron?
no one knows.
He was born in
don't even know.
'84. Everybody. No. So Aaron has been playing for a really long time and knows our life. He's been playing with our church for a really long time. So that's not to say that you've got the excuse to go, I didn't practice this week at all. But if there is a hairier week than normal, the benefit is that Aaron played like every week for however many years. And so 80% of the library, he's like internalized and could pull out of nowhere, right?
But again, that's not what I just said. Is in no means a mainstay. That should not be how you approach it.
He
I'm
won't
just
be
saying-
scheduled
Yeah.
till August.
I'm just saying that's in a pinch. Yeah.
Okay, I have more questions, but what questions do you guys have in case there's something that's like burning in you? How can we help?
It is now.
How long did you guys practice, like daily?
Hours. I'm just kidding. It depends what instrument I'm on, but
You wanna grab the mic?
if I'm the MD, hours. If I'm
Be
Yeah.
more specific, how many hours?
Uh, it depends, and my practice time also looks different. So if you mean just sitting down on my instrument and playing, I would say at least 30 minutes a day through the set list. Listening to the set list, at least once or twice through each song every day. But it really just depends. But if I'm the MD, I'm also listening to everybody else's parts on the regular.
I was sorry. I was gonna add that like some of the things we've been talking about, I think play a part in answering that question. So like there are some days where I can practice for like 15 minutes, and then the next day I have time to practice for like an hour and a half, like stuff like that. Especially because I have a small child, and so like all that.
But to that, you're also very musically
Well,
inclined, and you know
so
how to practice very well. You're not new to this.
Yeah, and one thing that I
which
wanted
helps.
to add to about how going back to like
The first thing
approaching.
George says is, no, Marissa, you practice well. And you
shush.
No, but some people are still learning how to learn
Yeah,
well,
music, how
and
to learn
that's-
their skill, how
That
to.
is one thing I'll say is it depends on how you practice. So Bree mentioned earlier, like running through a song over and over, and I tell this to my students too, like this is not gonna get you anywhere because you're just flubbing over that part you don't know over and over again. So, and especially for vocalists, like vocalists will text me and be like, there's no part for verse 2, and I'm like, willing to bet it's pretty close to verse 1. So, and that part is all on there. So it's kind of like know the parts of the song, and then I'm not joking.
I know, that's what's so funny. I know. I say this to my, you
I'm like,
should hear,
here it
the
is.
questions will come in, and I'm like, what do you mean, should I learn all the parts? Yes,
I'm like-
learn all the parts, and we'll figure out if you're
I'm
doing
like,
it
so it's
Thursday.
different words, as you've pointed out, but it's the same notes. So it's just like things like that is knowing how to practice well. So for example, if I know the progression of a song and I'm listening to the keys multi-track and I'm like, they're literally just playing whole notes for the first verse, I'm not gonna like harp on that. I'm not gonna be like, all right, hold on. Right. So it's like you just
Run it again.
Yeah, one more time. So I think it's part of that is I think how you practice, because I think some people will just sit and run the song and be like, oh, I still don't have verse 1. Then run every single line of verse 1, one at a time. And then that's what you have to do. And then when I have verse 1, awesome, I'm gonna move on to the chorus. So you have to chunk things, and I think that, for me, that's cut down a lot of my time and made things like more direct for me. And then I have more time when I have that like hour to sit down. That's more when I do like some of the progressions that Bree's given me, or like more fluid pieces for like ministry time and stuff like that, because I know the progressions, I know the sections of the song. So to answer your question, I think it varies on the day, and then how you practice as well.
I very rarely run through a full song whenever I sit down to practice. The nature of my job now is that I spend a lot of hours going through like sets and things, songs, marking charts, whatever. The only time I go through a full song is if I'm like marking a chart for the first time, or like need to hear how the arrangement goes. The rest of the time when I'm at home and working through something, I will pick, like Marissa said, kind of a roadblock or a spot in the song where I know my voice is gonna crack here, or I have a hard time with this, or I run out of breath, or whatever it is. And so I'm gonna literally run that, or if I need to know, this is a common one, what is the note of my part on this next section, right? And so you guys have probably heard me, those like, I'll find those pitches. You don't have to play an instrument to figure that out. You don't need to know what it's called. You just match the pitch on your piano or the app on your phone. And let's say it's, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a song that like, so like What a Beautiful Name, right? Didn't want heaven without us. Jesus, you brought heaven down. Da 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 da. What could separate us now? What a beautiful name it is. Now, what? Now, what? Now, what? And I will do that, I'm not kidding or exaggerating, 50 times. Now, what? Now, what? Now, what? Now, what? Everybody do it with me. Now, what? So now every time you hear What a Beautiful Name, you're gonna be, doesn't matter what key you're in, your brain has like figured out that measurement. It's an interval. And so doing that is so helpful. And so there's a lot of times if my voice is gonna crack somewhere, you can ask my kids, they get so mad at me. They're trying to watch TV and I'm like at the piano and I'll be like, who else? And so I'm like, nay, nay, wah, wah. Like just going through the like, wherever the break is, over and over and over and over, like 100 times. They're like, are you done yet? I'm like, no, like I gotta iron this out. I have to figure it out. And that way, by the time I get to Thursday, when I run that full song, the first 2 lines probably aren't gonna trip me up. Whatever, the first 2 lines of a song are pretty easy usually. It's when you get into the build and now we're doing that bridge on repeat and I'm out of breath. Where am I supposed to breathe? Like mark it on your chart so you know. And make those adjustments and practice. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So if you skip over something, like Marissa said, and you're just like, it's okay, I'll just like figure it out later, or no one will notice. We notice. Like Kiara and I on Thursdays after rehearsal often will go back through. If it's not Thursday night, Fridays we'll like listen back and go, what needs adjusted for? And there's a lot of times people think they just like flew by and we're like, no, that was wrong. That was overplaying. That they didn't know that part. They didn't know that groove. Whoa, those vocals aren't blending. And so we've got to readdress. And there are times I've reached out to people over the weekend because it's so severe. But it will do yourself and the team a favor to iron the things that are wrinkled. If you're ironing a shirt, you don't wrinkle the whole shirt. Like you don't iron the whole shirt if it's not wrinkled. If the sleeve is wrinkled, you're gonna like take your flat iron out and do the little piece so you don't gotta get the ironing board out, you know? Anyway, okay. Jordan, how do you practice? What's your practice?
Well, so practicing for tech is a little different, but for me, now that we have the set lists out on a month out,
3 weeks.
First thing, usually Mondays, I'll start to build the light scenes for the songs. And now that school's out, I get to play music in here, so they actually get to hear it, and they'll hear like the same 10 seconds repeat, repeat, repeat.
It's so annoying.
As I'm building the song, I'm trying to time everything. I'm trying to coordinate the lights to really function with what's happening, to just as much as sound, you guys are trying to capture everything well on your instrument, on your vocal, and produce it so that the experience is really good for everybody overall. I do the same thing with lights, and that's where I really get to practice and learn the music a lot. And sometimes I'm easily spending 4 or 5 hours just building lights, and then still on Thursdays, well, usually every day, but I go through the lights, make sure everything's good, and then I'll even have like Jada, she comes earlier, Wes, go through the lights just to make sure it's done well. But as they're going through it, I can really listen and really watch, and they're doing the stuff to make sure it goes well. But I really do dissect every single portion, and then if I'm on lights or on sound or on cameras, I know the music so well that I know what should happen for sound, what should happen for cameras, what should happen for lights. Pro Presenter, I don't really watch you guys on screens too much.
He doesn't like to
I
read.
trust you guys a lot there, but yeah, I don't, in my position, I don't listen to the words as much as the sound that's being produced. Obviously, I listen to the words and I try to capture, you know, if they're talking about a stream, let's make the lights do some kind of like wave or, you know, things like that. But yeah, I'm not just listening to the music in my car for my 2-minute drive because I live just down the road. I listen to it very attentively, actively. I try to dissect it and know it so well that no matter what position I'm in, I know what should be done for that position.
Tiffany? How many hours do you devote to practice?
Oh, I mean, actively listening, probably only a few hours a week, if that. But I listen to the songs on repeat for hours, especially when I'm in between calls. But I can attest to listening to a song 100 times and have no idea what's going on. Because I did that with On the Way because it is a newer song. I literally listened to it all day, and I went to pick up my son at 3 o'clock, could not tell you where any of the parts were, and I was so frustrated. But when I got off, I listened to it, and by the next day it was fine. Like, it's actively listening. It's sitting down and not even just riding in your car. That's the only thing you're doing.
A big part to that also is for the tech team. We can listen to the music and we can try to play out what's going to happen, but the big thing is when we're here, what are we doing with our time? Are we being efficient and practicing well? And yeah, okay, we set everything up good. Don't just sit back, but actually practice and try to grow your skill. Develop yourself further and try to reach a new level. Yeah.
Just one more thing. I know active listening sounds kind of weird when you're on tech, but specifically for lights, because I do mostly lights, I am listening for a song to potential hits. So if we've done these songs before, like Faithfulness or Inhabit, I know they have hits in them. But if I'm listening, thanks. Faithfulness stresses me out because it's the first one. I don't necessarily know where the first one's coming in at. Once I get the first one, I'm good, but that first one stresses me out. So like when I asked to redo it, like on Thursday, that's very hard for me, but I asked can we do that one more time so that I'm comfortable with it? But when you're actively listening for tech, specifically for lights, I know we did a song maybe like a month or two ago, and there were hits in this song. And I came in and there were no hits in the song. But I rehearsed and I was prepared for hits in a song.
I heard about this.
Yes. It's nice to when you're able to come in and practice because they don't always do the very beginning of the set for the whole practice time. So anytime they run through it, you don't have to listen to figure out where the hits are coming in. You already know. So you can just practice the lights.
Aaron, how many hours do you spend practicing?
Your air guitar.
Guitar? Oh, air guitar probably more than real guitar. But honestly, I think of practice as not just like sitting down and playing the instrument. I think of practice as like every aspect of it. So it's not just the time that I'm sitting there playing my bass, actively listening to the song for my part. It's also thinking about the song when the song isn't playing.
Yeah.
Like, can I recite that in my head without having to actually listen to it? That's practice, in my mind it is, at least. So I guess it's probably a little bit longer
Yeah.
than what, actively playing my bass, probably a few hours a week, to be completely honest. But in totality, it's probably closer to like 15 to 20 hours a week, just from like every aspect of it.
I was just going to say a good rule of thumb, if you were training for a marathon or wanted to get your body in shape, or it's the same concept, to maintain something, they say about 30 minutes a day, 3 to 4 times a week. And if you want to actively build something, it's 5 to 6 times a week, 30 minutes a day. And that's, if you did that in a physical regimen, it would take you 30 days to maybe start to notice a change for yourself, 60 days for other people to notice the change. So this isn't something that, like, I can devote 9 hours tomorrow and everybody's going to know this is great. Well, you can eat well for 9 hours. By the next day, if you slam milkshakes, it's not going to make a difference. It's not something that happens quickly. It just isn't. Anything worth it is not quick. And so I think, it'd be easy to say, because I think it's a variation for everybody, depending on the week and depending on the set and depending on who you're scheduled with, which is my next question. But like, what is appropriate for you is going to be very different in different seasons and different times and different set lists. The goal is that you're continually improving rather than it's quality over quantity. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to be out of time soon. So one of my last questions I want to ask is, how do you prepare depending on who's scheduled with you? Go ahead.
Guys, this is a big deal. Every week I check to see who's on with me because it drastically changes how I practice. As an MD, it changes how I direct too. I love the guys on our team, but when I MD and I'm the only female, I know I gotta be real direct because these guys aren't gonna listen to a word I say. Except for Jose. I told Bree, I was like, I wanna highlight Jose because last week specifically, I just love when Jose's on and I'm the MD because he comes in and he already has his questions like ready to go. He has like timestamps from rehearsal mix that he wants to ask me about. And I'm just like, and then he does this like joking thing when I call a cue, he'll like give me like one of these, but it's so affirming because I'm like, oh my gosh, Jose's listening. So when I MD, I'm like hopeful Jose's on because I'm like, oh, I'll feel so confident. But no, he comes so prepared. So when I'm on with Jose, I already know, like, oh, he's going to know the bass part, or he knows the chords. So that's, like, for an MD standpoint. It depends on the instrument. If I'm on acoustic and vocals, I'm paying attention to who I'm singing with, how I'm going to have to blend with them. Am I singing a part with someone, or am I singing a part by myself? That drastically changes how I practice vocals. Also, I could barf every time I sing, so I got to consider that. My breathing, so it really just depends. If I'm also paying attention to, and this isn't like a dig on like musicians, but I want to keep in mind, okay, is this person's strength rhythm, or is this person's strength they have really good fills, or does this person really struggle with rhythm? And this week I'm gonna have to really practice with the click in case they're like really flirting with the click, and I gotta help keep us on time. Or am I playing with someone who has a really hard time remembering progressions? So for me as an MD, okay, I might have to call this every time we play it so that we can stay together. So it makes a big difference. So if you don't check who you're playing with, you should now.
Anybody else have thoughts on this? Because I have a lot of thoughts on this. Tiffany, do you have thoughts about depends who you're scheduled with?
I don't know if this sounds bad, but the only position I feel like really affects me, I know this probably sounds bad, but it's going to be the service producer. And not who it is, whether or not we have one. It's not who it is. I love Jada, and I love Wes. They're the only service producers we ever have, and it wouldn't affect how I practice ahead of time. I would just need to make sure that I'm talking to Pro Presenter on Thursday so we know who's cueing the transitions. That's really it. Otherwise, y'all do you. I don't. No, like we can
Raise your
do
hand
it.
if you'd be interested in service producing. Sean, band people, you'd be phenomenal service producers. I'm just saying, because you know the music. FYI, okay, nobody else's hands are going up, so schedule Sean. All right. Aaron, do you take into consideration who you're scheduled with?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I look at it kind of like I was just thinking about it. I kind of look at everybody as kind of like ingredients to
What are we
meal,
gonna get?
essentially. Like, yeah, if you put certain ingredients together, you can get something really awesome.
Or not.
Or not. And or you can just get something different. You know what I mean? You can get something different as well. So it doesn't always look the same, but you have to be prepared for that too. Know strengths and weaknesses. I mean, just being real, everybody has strengths and weaknesses. And so if you can understand what that person and how it directly affects you, like if I'm playing with a certain drummer, I know that drummer is stronger in this area as opposed to this other drummer who is maybe a different style, a different approach to the song. So I'm going to have to change the way I play. Can't play more direct or more, maybe I have to play a little more jazzy or, something.
Which drummer is that for?
I'm not naming names.
I'm about to name some names.
But
I'm
it does affect how everything goes, and it directly, especially in like the bass department, it directly affects what I play. Because
The bass and the drummer relationship is so critical too. So if
Yes.
like a drummer is not consistent, the bassist can practice all day and it still doesn't feel locked in.
you can practice that song at home as the band played it, but if it is not on with the drums, you have to change your approach.
Come on.
It won't work if you play it the way that the original band played it. So
When we make the calendar, this is an exercise I keep saying I'm going to do. I'm going to do it one of these days. We're going to make the calendar together because the enigma of making the calendar is legit. These are the things that we'll talk about is we can't have only altos on. We need someone who can sing soprano. Or
else y'all come for
like,
our
what are
head.
we going to do? No one else can hit that note. So, okay, move it around. Yeah, Jordan's in. Move it around. Or these three people play really softly and don't play well rhythmically. If I put them all together, that is a nightmare for the rest of the team. And the band is going to fall apart. I'm dead serious. Like, that sounds like a joke, but it's very true. And so if I have a band who's newer or not as confident or doesn't play that type of music as strongly, I can't have vocalists who also don't really know what they're doing and their timing's off. I need to have like one of the spaces be more strength fortified, if you will. And then when we pick song lists, I'm also going, who's on that week? Because I'm not going to pick All Hail the Power on a week Kiara's on. She hates that song, not because of her preference, but because she's like, I don't play all those jazzy chords. When Mike's on keys, I'm like, we're picking every song with color chords because Mike is just gonna, and it's gonna feel like butter, and it's fine.
But the 1 week Mike ever called out, we were playing All Hail the Power. And Kiara had to play it Sunday morning. In mighty name of Jesus.
And then there are people who their strength and weakness, I just lost my pack. Strengths and weaknesses maybe is their, the way that they voice chords. And so if I put everybody together who plays block chords, do you know how awful our band would sound? So we're trying to mix up, okay, this person will play tastefully and really fill in that space. This person is only going to copy exactly what's there. And that person's not available, so now what do we do? And every month, there's a week where the combination is like money, and we're like, this is the week. And then there's a week in the month where I'm like, this is the weirdest grouping of people, and I'm hoping to God the Holy Spirit shows up. And it's not because anybody's bad at what they do. It's because we all have strengths and weaknesses, and some people are just more aware of how to lean into other people's than others. And that, again, separates. It's not just that I play my instrument. It's how do I lead intentionally from my instrument. And so that means I play more when I need to play more, and it means I play less when I need to play less. If I just power through something and just continue playing because that's what the multi-track said to do, but the whole band has like broken down, it's still out of order, and that doesn't work. Does that make sense? Am I?
Just to add to that though, like, yes, there are people that are stronger at other things and weaker at other things, but that doesn't mean that we can't like continue to grow that.
Come
Because
on.
the goal would be that like, it doesn't matter who's scheduled because we know our stuff and we come prepared. So that would be like a space where like, I don't know, if you're like, I know I'm really good at rhythm, but I'm really not good at like my numbers for my chords. Like that might be a place for you to personally grow, right? And then it wouldn't matter like who's on. And obviously there's room for like some people are newer to the team or newer to how we do things and stuff like that. But also like tune into your section leaders. If you're like, oh, this person, I'm really good at rhythm, but this person's really good at voicings, then it's like, hey, can you show me some stuff? Like, how do you play that song really well? And I've like, there are days that I've asked Kiara, like, what do you do on this? Because like, I didn't play this one ever before. Or there would be times where like, I've only ever sung this song. I've never actually played it on keys, but the band, and I'm MDing, so I better know exactly what I'm supposed to do and do it as well as the person who did it before me, because it's got to be like consistent. So just to be encouraging, and like you can grow in those areas, and you should strive to do that.
I think I've said it before, but at the conference we went to in February, Walker Beach said there's no such thing as alto soprano tenors as vocalists. There's just trained and untrained vocalists. And that was like, for me, but he's dead serious. And that is, like you're saying, the like growth in your skill. There's a way to strengthen your range, vocalists, just like there's a range to strengthen your musical ability. And to be the musician who's so versatile that whatever seat you're put in, you can do it, like, that's a win for everybody, right? And one last question. Anybody have one? I know you're like, we're done. Anybody? Wes?
As a camera operator, Jordan,
Lay it on me.
how would you say, I know that we're supposed to know our songs, the set list for the week, but how would you expect a camera operator to be well prepared before Thursday night?
Great question. Obviously, you guys can't be practicing at home, unfortunately, but you can practice listening to the music so that when we do the run-through, you can know exactly what is happening. The biggest thing is, as soon as you get here, set your shots, practice running through those shots, practice, all right, in this song, I know there's a big guitar solo. Let me make sure I know that preset by heart so I can switch to it at the right time.
I would say the bare minimum for that, and I don't even operate cameras, but I can't tell you how many times, it happened recently, the last time I think Claudia was on, she like started singing, but it was on me, and it looks so funny when the voice doesn't match, or it like switched to Brett and Marissa was leading, and I was like, that's weird. Like if you're watching from home, if the voice doesn't match whoever's doing the thing, you're like, what? Like you just automatically, it's awkward. Or if someone's talking and you don't see them, like we practice the majority of those moments. And so being aware that like, hey, there's a drum chorus coming up, so I should probably have drums in clutch. Like you got 6 options back there. Have drums as one. Jada.
Even like as a camera operator, like if you've done it enough times, I know some of you are like newer, but like you should be able to kind of visualize the kinds of shots that you can do on a Thursday night and a Sunday. So like as you like actively listen to a song, and this is what I do as a service producer with all the positions, not so much cameras, which I'm like learning to do more with cameras, but like with other things, like I like think about, like I can't practice lights at home, but I can think about like what like are the lights, is it a built moment? So the lights are gonna be going crazy at this point of the song, or like is it a low moment? The lights are going to be quieter. It's probably going to be like, I don't know the names of them, but you know, a softer light. And the same with, I think, goes with cameras as well, is that like, if you, when you take time to actively listen to the music and like each portion of the song, you should be able to like, at least like lay a foundation of the kinds of shots that you can do like when you come on a Thursday night. like just like Bree was saying, like, okay, I know that Bree is leading this song, but she's also leading with Nico, and I know Nico's coming in at verse 3, so I need to make sure that when verse 3 is coming, then I got a shot on Nico at this point. And you can write it down on a chord chart, so that when you bring it in, it's there and it's
Come with
ready.
your list ready. These are the 10
Yeah.
shots I want to have. Or for this
Right.
song, this is what they need to change to. Or everybody's hands are going up now. What's up? What's up, Nico?
YouTube videos. You can watch a clip of the song, and you can actually have an idea of lighting as well. It could be lighting, it could be the clip, could be where doesn't have to be exactly
Expression
the
or
same.
what their voicing
Yeah.
is or
But we're practically playing the song, so
Claudia, what were you gonna say? That's what you're gonna say? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great to get inspired by other things that are doing really well. So all right, we are about out of time because we want to give Worship Academy students a chance to actually play, and they're only here till 8. So we're going to wrap up. But if you guys have more like prep questions that you're like churning, email them to us. I'd love to send you a response. Like, we want to help equip you however we can. But was this helpful? Hopefully? Okay, great. Yeah. Remember, in June, we're going to be flexible because we don't know what that looks like yet, right? Okay, everything's fine. June's going to be a dumpster fire. Yeah, I'm going to pray, and then we'll be done. Jesus, I thank you for tonight. I thank you for this team, and I just thank you, God, for the way that you have equipped us all for everything that we need for life and godliness. And so, Lord, as we steward our gifts, as we steward worship in this house, I pray that you would inspire us by the power of the Holy Spirit to bring our very best. God, that we would devote ourselves to our crafts, that we would be mindful of what we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it. And I just pray, Lord, that even this week as we think about those things, God, that you would be honored in our worship, that you'd be glorified in what we say and do, and that your name would be lifted highest in this place. We love you, Jesus, and it's in your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Okay, vocalists, you are heading with Claudia, and are you going to? Are you serious? No. And Marissa to the lobby while Worship Academy and the band start up here. We will see you back here at 8.